The leaves of summer are green and new. The air is fresh. Yet somehow it all seems so familiar. Yes, you've already walked down this path along the roots of Pikes Peak. You've already turned at the sign for Anselm Society Digital Pub. Entering the pub, with its riotous conversation about arts and faith, you know you have done this before. Are you stuck in a recurring dream? Have they changed something in the Matrix? Or is this bout of deja vu just a normal aspect of the ennui of contemporary existence? Luckily, at a corner table, there are two people who look just as confused as you. Because yes, you are at the Believe to See table, a podcast of the Anselm Society Digital Pub. And I'm Matt Mellema, one of your co-hosts, joined here by, are you my guest or the co-host today? I'm not really sure.
Well, that's a good question. We'll go guest today because you have prepared and haven't really filled me in on the questions that you have for me. So I feel like a guest, not a co-host.
I have a lot of questions for you.
Yes.
I should probably explain first off that that voice, for those of you who may not have heard the previous ones, is my wife, Danielle.
Hey, everybody.
She is a sometimes guest / co-host now. And I will explain everything in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the Anselm Society. The Anselm Society is a coalition of churches along the Front Range of Colorado Springs, especially in the Colorado Springs area. We are dedicated to the renaissance of the Christian imagination. That's all. That's our one thing. So to help bring that about, we have a lot of different programs, events, content available. We have two other podcasts in addition to this one, Redeemed Imagination and Speaking with Joy, which you should definitely check out. We also have a yearly conference. We have tons of stuff. If you want to find out more about us, then just visit anselmsociety.org. And while I'm telling you stuff, how's that for a segue? Why don't you go ahead and rate and review the show? Believe to See. It's a great way to raise the visibility of the show, helps get the word out there. And helps me out, too. Just helps me when I'm getting up in the morning knowing that I'm the host of a show that gets reviews. Apparently my psyche is very fragile. But anyway, I feel like I owe you a little bit of an explanation. So we have tried really hard to record this episode with one of our Anselm Society Arts Guild artists, Lisa Ryther. And the topic was responses to the burning of Notre Dame. And as you can tell, since that's been in the news for a long time, we've had a lot of trouble getting this show going. Danielle, maybe you can help walking through all the steps we've tried.
Well, in early May, we recorded, I wish you all could hear it, a fantastic episode with Lisa Ryther, an Anselm member artist, about responses to the fire at the cathedral, about how we can be charitable to those who maybe were not as deeply affected by it as those who are involved with the Anselm Society and are probably in a like mind to us. It was great, let me tell you. However, despite the fact that I saved it in two different locations.
Oh, your saving skills are not on trial here, sweetie.
Saved it, people. The file corrupted on our computer. I was exonerated by the man from Apple support who said he had never seen anything like it in all his years working there, and said that it was an issue with the file and not with me. I don't know why it's so important to me for you to know that, but it is. But sadly, the file could not be saved after a very long time of trying several different strategies. And then the other night, we tried again.
Yeah, we recorded at long distance this time over our recording app.
Yep, on a recording app.
But the app kept kicking Lisa out for reasons that we haven't been able to pin down exactly.
We do not understand
So a second failed attempt. And I thought about bringing Lisa in for a third try, but it just seems mean at this point.
I know.
If you all really want us to do it, let me know, and I can use that to guilt Lisa into it. But the long and short of it is that was supposed to be our episode this week. But we don't have it. And there are a couple others that I have in the hopper, but I wasn't able to pin down a recording date in time. So for a while I was thinking, oh no, what are we going to do for the episode this week? But then I remembered something. Do you know what I remembered, sweetie?
Tell me what you remember, babe.
Thank you. I remember the drive we had this Saturday up to Divide. It's about half an hour in the mountains, and I spent most of it on a soapbox.
A Harry Potter related soapbox. So you know it was serious.
So I was thinking, what can we talk about? And I was like, oh wait, I'll just give the rant I did in the car. So let me tell you a little bit.
Treat.
Woo, I really know how to sell something. So let me tell you, I, of course, love Harry Potter. You know this because I'm with Anselm. It's like a rule. If you meet someone with Anselm, they love Lord of the Rings, they love Flannery O'Connor, and they love Harry Potter. So obviously I love Harry Potter. I think J.K. Rowling's a genius, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I've been listening to a podcast that does a deep dive into Harry Potter, Binge Mode Harry Potter. Check it out. It's pretty good. And I've also been going through the books again. I've had to rent them from the library, so it's been very slow going because they're quite popular. I don't know if you heard that.
Yes, I think so. I think your longest wait time for one of the books so far has been, like 3 months?
Oh, longer than that.
And they always come in at the same time.
But so I've been going through those and I've been noticing some things. And while this is happening, I think I mentioned this, I've been working on my own fiction project that requires a lot of world building. So world building and Harry Potter have both been weighing very heavily on my mind recently. So that made me think of a lot of world building questions for Harry Potter. Now, before I get all the angry responses, again, I love Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling's a genius. She did a brilliant job. However, I believe some parts of the wizarding world that she has built, the fantastic wizarding world that she has built, could use some more scrutiny. And maybe we can get some other lessons on world building tips. Maybe, hopefully, make us think a little bit harder about Harry Potter. So to do that, I have prepared a long list of questions I have about the wizarding world of Harry Potter. And Danielle, if you don't mind, I would like to present each one to you and you can try to answer. This is what happened in the car ride. I would be like, well, this doesn't make any sense. And then Danielle would be like, well, maybe she meant for this to happen, throwing it out there as like this.
I'm just trying to defend her.
I'm
just trying to help her out.
Sticking up for your girl, Jo. That's what her friends call her, is Jo.
Yeah.
And then I would shoot it down because I'm a cynical old man at heart. And then you'd try to be like, well, maybe it's this. And I'd shoot it down.
Yes.
So I think
you had no ideas. You just shot down all the suggestions.
No solutions.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how our marriage works. You give up possible solutions, and I'm like, no, that's not going to work. Blah, blah, blah. But anyway, that's the plan.
Okay.
And you have not seen these questions,
No.
but you've probably heard me rant on some of them. So
Yes.
we'll see. Okay. So the first issue I would like to address is the population of Wizarding Britain. So I'd like to start off with a couple premises. One, every single wizarding child, be they little wizard or little witch, goes to Hogwarts for learning the arts of witchcraft and wizardry. Is that correct?
I don't know that's expressly stated, but I think that's the assumption. It seems like every country has their own wizarding academy. So if you are British, you go to Hogwarts. And I think that's just the way it goes.
For a while, I was like, maybe Hogwarts is kind of like Wizarding Eton, like it's the elite school, but if you're, come from like a normal working class wizarding family, you go to like some state wizarding school. But I think, looking at it, it's pretty clear that we can assume all of the, say, 11-year-olds in Wizarding Britain are in attendance at Hogwarts. Would you agree with that assumption?
Yes, I would.
And judging by the class size, looks like there's, I think I read somewhere, I should also tell you all, I've done some research. I didn't do a full-blown internet deep dive. That's partially on purpose. These are my impressions from reading the books and seeing the world just through the primary text. If there's secondary texts that give answers, you can give them to me if you want. I don't know what I'll do with them, but just so you know, I'm partly speaking out of ignorance.
He's old and settled in his way.
So there's 100 students per class. So there's 25 Gryffindors, 25 Slytherins, I guess. So 700 total wizards between the ages of 11 and 17. Would you say that checks out?
I honestly don't know. I'd have to look at the books, but is that what the assumption you're going off of?
Well, so the point here is I went to a high school that had about 100 students per class. We played 3A sports, so we were a middle-of-the-road high school. We played lots of small towns, either on the eastern plains or in the mountains. So the point here is the wizarding population the equivalent to a small town in Colorado, say 5,000 people.
Well, what's the population of Great Britain in total?
I believe it's about 60 million.
Okay, then it doesn't make 5,000 seem that much when you consider the population of the entire UK, right?
Oh, no, it's a minuscule population.
Yeah. So I feel like that number's fine to me then.
I just don't think it's enough.
You don't think it's enough? I thought you would think it was too much.
Oh, no, I don't think the population's sustainable. Okay, let me put it this way. Iceland.
Okay.
Very small country, 300,000 people. Still 100 times larger than the population of Wizarding Britain. But Iceland has trouble with incest because everybody has lived there forever. Yeah. They're all kind of related to everyone. So there's actually an incest prevention app that all the young people have before they begin anything. And again, Iceland has nearly 100 times as many people as Wizarding Britain.
Interesting.
This would be a huge problem, especially for all the pureblood families.
Well, this is a series of children's books.
Malfoy is probably seriously inbred. That's probably why he's so bad at Quidditch.
And why he's so mean.
Maybe. It's like the Habsburg thing. Oh, gosh. So yeah, I am legitimately concerned that the wizarding population is not sustainable. And let's take this another step. The Quidditch League. Mm-hmm. There is apparently a full-blown Quidditch League in Wizarding Britain. I've been going through the teams as I've been reading through it. I have been able to identify at least 5 separate teams. There's the Chudley Cannons, which is Ron's favorite team. There's the Tornadoes, which is Cho Chang's favorite team. There's the Harpies, which Ginny eventually plays for professionally. There's one called Puddlesmere or something. It's supposed to be this rinky-dink one that Wood plays for. Then there's another one that's sort of mentioned offhand. 5 professional Quidditch teams for a population of 3,000 people.
But perhaps it's more like the English Premier League where, while there are certainly many English players in it, there's also a lot of international players. Maybe it's not just limited to the population of Great Britain.
Oh, okay. See that now? That
is that a point? Are you keeping track of points? If so, I feel like that's a point for me.
I redact it now. Withdraw my. Oh, but here's another thing. Let's go back to Iceland. Iceland is really good at soccer.
Okay.
Me and you went up during the last World Cup. The United States was not in it.
No, that was
with our 300 million people, but Iceland was with 300,000. So this pub in Denver decided to turn into an Iceland bar during the World Cup.
So we took our 2 infant sons to a bar at 9 a.m. to watch Iceland play in the World Cup. People were all in.
Oh, I had a great time.
It was exciting. We actually sat at a table with actual people from Iceland. They were employees for Iceland Air and had a little bit of time, I guess, between flights at DIA and came out to this bar to be a part, to watch the game and to be a part of it all. And it was awesome.
I know, like at one point,
It was
one
awesome.
of the Icelandic ladies gave our son a little Iceland flag to wave.
It was so
It was like one of those like Coca-Cola, the world is all but one big family commercials. It was a beautiful moment. But
We realize this isn't on topic, but
well,
it
it
was
kind of
great.
is. Running it back, Iceland does not have its own soccer league, even though obviously it's a soccer-crazed country, because they only have 300,000 people. That's not enough people to support a whole league.
right.
Yet we're to believe that a population that's 1/100th the size can support a whole league? Even if we do have an influx of players from other countries, that's not enough.
There's also fewer players on the field at a time, so we can assume it's smaller teams.
I mean, barely. I mean,
See, this is the dynamic you can expect. I'm going to offer up suggestions, and Matt's going to be like, pew, 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 and shoot them down.
so a related point. The Ministry of Magic is way too large if we accept that there's like
It's a lot of red
5,000
tape.
people. It seems like the only jobs available in the wizarding world are you own a shop in Diagon Alley or you work at the Ministry of Magic. Those are your two choices. Think about it. Colorado Springs has about 300,000 people. How many people do you think work at City Hall? A couple dozen?
I don't know that your assumption is completely true, though, because in the first book, we see Uncle Vernon, like, noticing a lot of people talking about, about Voldemort. I don't think they use that word, of course, obviously. But they're talking about it after his death. And this is, like, on his commute into, I don't know if they specifically see London, but I think
I think
that's
he
the
does
assumption.
work in London. I think he lives in like a
So
London
they're
suburb.
like
Yeah.
among us. So while I'm sure there are a lot that work for the Ministry of Magic or own shops, I think there is an assumption that there are a lot of wizards among us.
So you think the population of Wizarding Britain is larger than like 5,000?
Oh, not necessarily. I just don't think they're all relegated to like their own tiny inbred communities.
Well, I disagree with you there, but
I
I'll
can
leave
see
that point
I can see
aside.
that.
I do grant your point that there are likely other jobs that just aren't mentioned, but that still leaves the point there are way too many people working for the government to govern 5,000 people. Would you say there are at least several hundred people working at the ministry, just looking at the book? Because Harry goes on an extended tour of the Ministry of Magic in Order of the Phoenix, and there are so many departments, each one with a head and an assistant head and underlings. There's the Auror office. There's so many departments. If each department has even a handful of people, we're talking about several hundred employees. So if you look at the ratio, that would be sort of like if Colorado Springs, with their 300,000 people, had like 100,000 people working at City Hall. This doesn't make sense.
Interesting. I mean, yes.
Point.
Yes. I mean, it is a lot of people, but I think, in J.K. Rowling's defense, I think it does for the imagination as you're trying to get into that world, to think about the different departments as maybe different things that wizards like consider, or the different facets of their life in communities that we wouldn't really think about because, well, we're just muggles. So I think she's exposing us to different parts of the wizarding community through the departments of the Ministry of Magic. I mean, would it be as cool and as fascinating if it was just like, a few departments, a few people? I don't know. I think
it'd be
I think
more
a
real.
lot is
You go down to the
accomplished.
Ministry of Magic, it's like a one-room building. It's like, oh, hey, well, there's only 5,000 of us, so...
You're going to have to take a number.
So, on a related note, you touched on this earlier, but I think it merits more exploration.
Okay.
What other jobs are there in the wizarding community? Really, the only jobs I see, legitimately, teacher at Hogwarts,
Okay.
running a shop or bar in either Hogsmeade or Diagon Alley, employee at Ministry of Magic. I think like Mrs.
about-
Weasley's like a stay-at-home mom.
What about like Bill and his work with the dragons? So
Okay.
there's, like,
No, that's a good one. So he works with dragons
Yeah.
with the Ministry of Magic.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, Charlie works with the dragons. Bill works at Gringotts.
Oh. Yes.
So that's another job.
Sorry, yes.
So we have a bank, small business owner, government employee.
You could be a Death Eater. I mean,
They have day jobs, Danielle. So the point is, do wizards have lawyers? Do they have accountants? The wizards have real estate agents.
I think, again, it's important to remember these are originally written, though widely loved by adults, which is important, I think, for any quality children's literature. But these were originally written for an audience of children who perhaps are not as concerned about where the accountants are. Just a thought.
But where are the accountants? If there are accountants, where did they
Why
learn
couldn't-
accounting? Because they don't teach accounting at Hogwarts.
Maybe that's the stuff they learn before Hogwarts. Maybe that's something that they expect to be taught in the home. I don't know.
Accounting?
Yes, accounting. I'll teach our boys accounting at home.
Oh, goodness. So, do you think there are any wizards who have muggle jobs?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
I mean, if there aren't any jobs in the wizarding community, and
I don't see why not.
I see why not.
Why not?
They don't have the degrees.
I mean, you could. There's no reason you couldn't get a graduate degree after going to Hogwarts, or maybe an apprenticeship
So you
style.
think there are students who walk straight from Hogwarts to Oxford and Cambridge?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I just don't think these are questions that are meant to be asked. So I'm doing my best here.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not.
I guess why
I mean,
not?
Hermione's parents were dentists, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, she knows a lot about dentistry. You can't just get rid of that knowledge and exposure.
But she can't,
simply because you were at Hogwarts. Plus, her parents know. Well, I mean, their minds were erased, sadly.
Oh,
but
I
previous
found out.
to that,
Oh, just to put your mind at ease, J.K. Rowling did say afterwards that after Deathly Hallows events transpired, Hermione found her parents in Australia and fixed their memories.
oh. That's funny. Apparently, people must have been really bothered by that.
She must have gotten that question
I have
a
to
lot.
admit, that part made me cry. And I'm a crier. What can I say? So I feel like, I mean, her parents knew that she was a witch, so it's not like she had to cover up her Hogwarts background or whatever to, seem more legitimate. If she had a
I actually have more
passion
questions
for
on this point. Let's put a pin on it right now.
I feel
We'll come
like her
back.
parents could have apprenticed her into that. I'm confident.
You're
there have to be
telling
people in
me-
non-magical jobs.
You're telling me-
Oh my goodness, you will just never agree.
I mean, so she
Go ahead,
she
I'm
graduates from Hogwarts, then goes to dental school?
Yes, and if you can't seem to get those fillings to take. Is that a thing? I don't know. If you can't, then you use a little magic and make it happen. And in the name of dentistry.
I would actually say there are few to no wizards and witches who have muggle jobs. The reason I say this is because it is so clear over and over again throughout the series, wizards don't know anything about the muggle world. They know nothing.
I don't think that's true.
Oh, that is
whole.
absolutely true.
No. I think that is true of the old wizarding families where both parents are wizards and their parents were wizards. Okay, you get what I mean. I think it's true of them because they are so ingrained in that society. But I mean, we had people coming into Hogwarts who had heard of English Premier League teams, and then of course their cohorts were confused because they had never heard of it.
Exactly.
Yes, but it still was a student at Hogwarts who brought it up. I think students from Muggle families are very familiar with culture. I mean, they spent 11 years in it before going to Hogwarts. So I guess I think your argument doesn't make sense. Perhaps for people who are from wizarding families, but people from Muggle families, or if we're going with my theory, people from wizarding families who are more familiar with the Muggle world, perhaps have Muggle jobs. I think it makes complete sense.
No.
Oh my goodness.
That was a really
Telling ya.
impassioned argument. I see how it coheres. I'm going to have to disagree.
You're rotten.
Over and over again, throughout the course of the books, it is made so clear wizards and witches don't know anything about the Muggle world. Now, I know small percentage of them were Muggle born, but it seems like the ones who were Muggle born leave it all behind. And let's take the first book. Wizards and witches come up to Harry throughout his childhood because they recognize the scar, like, hey, what's up? But Harry just notices how strangely they dress. Over and over in, like, Goblet of Fire, the wizards and witches are instructed to dress as muggles when they're attending the World Cup. And it's a big joke how they have no idea how to dress like muggles dress. Mr. Weasley, who makes a living in going after muggle artifacts that have been improperly bewitched, doesn't know how to use a telephone. He doesn't know how to use public transit. He doesn't know how to use muggle money, even though it has the numbers on it.
But the Weasleys are part of an ancient wizarding family.
Exactly.
I feel like our two theories aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
No, because I'm saying, yes, Muggle-borns do know about the Muggle world, obviously, but they're not going to get jobs in the Muggle world.
I don't agree. I just don't.
Okay,
I think
fine.
we're at an impasse.
Whatever.
But I love you.
I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's do this
Bring
then.
out another point so I can just try to think up an argument. You can just shoot it down again. Go ahead.
I've been trying to shoot him down, but you won't let me. Okay, so let's go to the mechanics of how Hogwarts works.
Okay.
So
wow,
first,
you got a lot here.
I have a lot.
Okay.
So first of all, should we assume that each of the houses at Hogwarts has approximately equal numbers of students?
Oh, that's interesting. I think that's the assumption.
I think
we're never led to believe otherwise, that there's like a disproportionate amount of Hufflepuffs, even though I feel like of the people who have taken the Pottermore quiz, this is probably the nerdiest thing I've ever said. I feel like there's a disproportionate amount of people I've met who are Hufflepuffs.
Yes, this is actually. I agree.
My dad's the only Slytherin I've ever met, and he is darn proud. He is proud.
My dad is Gryffindor.
Yeah,
and
he was also quite proud.
He was weirdly proud. Like, it went straight to his head. He like tells my mom afterwards, "Well, sweetie, happy to be married to a Gryffindor man."
Yeah, but he was feeling himself for sure.
But so that's why I bring this up, because I think we're never told otherwise than that
right.
The houses have approximately equal numbers. There's never like, oh, it's really low yield for the Slytherins this year. So I think we should assume they're equal. But there's a couple things floating out there. One, the Sorting Hat takes personal choice into account.
Yes,
so
that's true.
I would assume a lot of wizards would have a say in there. Like, for instance, there's a Hufflepuff stigma. There's also a Slytherin stigma.
Well, unless there's like a Slytherin legacy. Like, it seemed like several of those students that we were introduced to in the books were part of families who had historically been a part of Slytherin.
Yes, but I guess the point is, like...
And they all were the worst, though, too. Weren't they? Like, there wasn't like a nice Slytherin kid that you were introduced to, I feel like.
You know, I think in The Cursed Child, Harry Potter's son, Albus, I believe he's a Slytherin.
That's a post-Voldemort world. It's a little different.
Hashtag just saying.
I don't disagree. I've never read it, though.
Okay.
I'll get on that.
Okay. So yes, related to that, if you look at the Pottermore tests, it seems like the vast majority of people are either Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw, with a coterie of Gryffindors who are really just the jerks who rigged the test because they wanted to be in Gryffindor.
Yeah, it's like, how many times did you take that test till you got Gryffindor? How long
Yeah,
did
exactly.
it take?
And very few people are Slytherin because I think few people would answer the questions honestly enough. So I feel like the Pottermore test is nowhere near 25, 25, 25, 25.
I would agree.
But maybe the Sorting Hat sort of weights it on its own. Maybe Pottermore should have done that. JK, if you're listening to this, you should consider doing that.
What? Get an actual sorting hat?
No. No, take the results and weight them so 25% of the population goes in each house.
That's interesting.
I probably would have been in Slytherin if that was the case. All right, so another question that I have.
Oh, gosh.
I'm wondering the relationship between your power as a witch or wizard and your intelligence. So it seems like, let's take two wizards and witches in particular, Albus Dumbledore and Hermione Granger. They're both seen as geniuses, and they're both seen as very powerful wizards. Hermione in particular is generally regarded, Harry Potter I think makes this statement in Half-Blood Prince, that Hermione is the best in her class. And people comment about her skill as a witch, but this seems to stem from the fact that she is very intelligent and very hardworking. Mm-hmm. So the question is, what makes a supremely talented witch or wizard? Does intelligence equal power? Does hard work and practice pay off for it? Or do some people just have an innate magical ability? Like, is Dumbledore just more magical than other wizards, or is he just the smartest wizard?
I don't feel like this is that different than how you consider intelligence in the Muggle world necessarily. Is it aptitude? Is it hard work? I don't feel like they're...
Well,
Can't it be like a both and?
Let's put more of a point on it. If Ravenclaw's supposed to take all the smart wizards and witches, did they have the most powerful ones?
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, obviously not.
What are you implying?
Says the Ravenclaw. No, I would say not necessarily, because we're exposed to a lot of other great wizards, not even just in intelligence, but also like in bravery and...
Well, bravery's all well and good, but I mean...
I think that's important.
Does it make you more magical?
I don't know.
Neither do I. I'm just the guy asking questions.
I don't know what to say to that. I feel like that isn't necessarily a question that would be exclusive to the wizarding world. I feel like that's something people debate in the real world.
Okay. Well, let's move on to another possibly related question. Mm-hmm. How do they keep the wizarding world hidden in Britain, especially now? Let me give you a lead up. First time I read through the Harry Potter books, I was unaware, maybe some of you all are unaware, the books are supposed to take place between 1991 and 1997. So when I first read through, I was like, Harry, you could have just Googled some of this stuff. But of course they didn't.
They didn't have Google.
Didn't have it back then. But they do now. So when you think about it, a major part of pretty much every single book involves Harry not being able to find the answer to information that he could have just Googled if there was wizarding internet. For example, yes, I've listed them all. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, they spend a lot of time...
My.
What?
You've listed them all. Go ahead. Go ahead.
They spend a lot of time wondering, who's Nicholas Flamel? They spend hour after hour in the library and trying to figure it out.
But you couldn't expect Google to have this information.
If there's a wizarding internet...
Google is, inherently Muggle.
Oh, you're anticipating my question
You think
here.
there's a wizarding internet?
I think there is now.
What would they call the search engine of wizarding internet?
So let's just sort of stipulate that if Harry had access to a wizarding internet, it would have made his life at Hogwarts much easier. And like Goblet of Fire, he could have just Googled, how does a wizard breathe underwater? And it'd just pop up, oh, gillyweed, cool. And it wouldn't have even been a thing. How do you destroy a Horcrux? Oh, all right.
I think it's also important to remember that this is a book that requires a plot, and seeking out the answers to these questions.
It would have made the books a lot more boring.
It would have been a lot more boring. It's like, oh, there you go. That was easy. Instead of, a 7-chapter quest for a single question that moves the plot on to the next
Hagrid spills the beans at Nicholas Flamel and the mystery music. Who is Nicholas Flamel? Then cut to Hermione on her iPhone. Oh, found it.
Never mind, Hagrid. Sorry. We got it.
So that leads to a couple related, intertwined questions. One, do you think, assuming the Wizarding World continues today, the Wizarding World would have the internet by now?
Sure.
Now, there's a couple points that would suggest against it, because the Wizarding World is, in general, very slow to adapt Muggle technology.
But,
some examples. In Harry Potter, they use quills and ink when the ballpoint pen has been around for a very long time. They only recently got plumbing at Hogwarts. They didn't get it until very late. Apparently, before then, wizards would just do their business and then make it disappear. I've been doing some research, sweetie.
It's in the books. I don't remember that.
It's not in the books, but it may have been extra book. But anyway, the Hogwarts Express, they had to steal the train because none of the wizards could figure out how to make the Muggle engineering work. They wear robes instead of Muggle clothes. Again, Mr. Weasley doesn't know what a telephone is. He calls it by the wrong thing. And I feel like a phone would be very useful. In Order of the Phoenix, one of the big plot devices at the end is Harry saying, oh no, there's no way I can possibly get a hold of Sirius. What if there was a phone?
Yeah, what if there was?
But here's another thing working against it, because one of the other conceits that the book makes is that Hogwarts is so charged with magic that Muggle technology just doesn't work there. So that could be a problem, but I feel like there's easy solutions to this. Maybe you could have a phone booth just outside of campus.
An internet cafe.
An internet cafe, exactly.
Maybe with the 3 broomsticks.
Yeah. You see, these are solvable problems.
You're funny.
So let's also keep going with this. I feel like, especially nowadays, the Muggle world would be much harder to conceal from the Wizarding world. In other words, the Wizarding world would be looking at the Muggle world. So let's take the example of Dean. In book 1, he's Muggle-born, and he is a West Ham United fan. Mm-hmm. And again, one of the points is...
proving my point that there are plenty of people within a Hogwarts that have a knowledge of Muggle pop culture. Just saying thank you for proving my point retroactively. Continue.
But the point is, none of the people at Hogwarts have heard of West Ham United, which is a major soccer team in the Premier League. That strikes me as implausible, but I could see Dean being like, no, the Premier League, this is cool. There's a sport called soccer. There's more than one sport in the world. Soccer is super cool. And then he brings his iPhone into Hogwarts. He shows everyone, hey, look, there's this thing called Snapchat and Twitter and Facebook.
They have a no phones policy, just like every other school.
At a boarding school, you think they can enforce that?
I do. By magic. Thanks to magic. I feel like that could really be the answer to all of your arguments. It's like, I don't know how.
They can do
just
it
magic.
thanks to magic.
Magic.
But let's say they're home on break. You know, the Wizarding kids, like Ron and Hermione's kids, they discover, whoa, this iPhone thing is really amazing. Whoa, Muggle movies? Muggle TV, Muggle music, which is all just totally unknown to the wizards. Wouldn't that all start to seep in?
I don't see how it couldn't, but I don't know that's necessarily an issue, especially if, using your example, if it's Ron and Hermione's family, Hermione grew up with these things. And her kids' grandparents, who are Muggles, would use them regularly. So I don't see how those kids couldn't be exposed to them.
Exactly, which means it's going to be introduced into the wizarding world, which means it's a gateway to the outside Muggle world.
But that doesn't necessarily mean the reverse is true, that the Muggles somehow have access into
There would if there was wizarding internet.
Because of magic. Magic.
Okay, I have another set of questions for you. This is something I've been wondering. Specifically, I'm wondering about Quidditch strategy.
Oh, wow. So back to Quidditch. I'm switching gears in my brain. Quidditch.
Okay. So, in Quidditch, the snitch is worth 120 points. And it also ends the game.
Yes.
Whereas scoring points with the quaffle is worth 10 points. So, in Muggle Quidditch, which you all should do a YouTube deep dive on, it's very interesting. My brother thought about trying out for New York's premier Quidditch team, the New York Dragons, but he wimped out.
He should do it.
He really should. I'd love to say my brother's
That'd
a
be
Quidditch
awesome.
player.
He should do it.
What position do you think he'd be?
Ooh, I think he'd be a good bludger.
Oh, he would be a good bludger. Is that aggression? Yeah. Okay, but anyway. So, Muggle Quidditch solves this problem by making the snitch only worth 30 points. But really, what's the only strategy? Because when would you ever be in a situation where you're down by 12 goals with the quaffle? Never. So why do you waste all that practice time with the chasers and the bludgers and the goalkeeper? You know, Ron takes so much crap in books 5 and 6 for being a bad goalie. It doesn't friggin' matter. Harry's just going to catch the snitch. Who cares if you don't even need a goalie?
Maybe.
If it was me, here's how I would set up the match.
Okay, tell me.
You maybe have a goalie. You have maybe one or two of the chasers is just making sure things don't get out of control with the quaffle. Everyone else is just concerned about the snitch. So there's a rule in Quidditch that only the seeker is allowed to grab the snitch. So you can't have more than one seeker.
Okay.
However, you could have a chaser who's like spotting the snitch for the other person. And the bludgers, the beaters should only be going after the other seeker.
Called them bludgers before. They're beaters. We know that.
The beaters should only be going after the other seeker. Because once again, you're not going to get down 12 goals. But if you can make sure you accelerate how fast you get the snitch, that should be priorities 1 through 5.
But would that be an issue with, like, going against the spirit of that rule? Like, clearly it's the seeker's job to worry about the snitch. Everyone else
Danielle.
is worrying
This
about
is a market
the quaffle.
inefficiency. This is sort of like how in the NBA, they introduced the three-point line in like the early 80s, but people didn't realize they should get good at three-point shots until the early 2000s. I feel like I could really do a Moneyball Quidditch. I'd really like to coach one of those teams. Get me in charge of the Chudley Cannons. I'll be Brad Pitt in Moneyball.
Only corner threes.
Only corner threes.
I mean, it is interesting. I don't have a good defense for that one. I feel like a lot of people have questions about the issues with the scoring system in Quidditch.
Do you agree with me on this one?
I do. Although I will say for the plot, though, it's very important for Harry to catch the snitch. It circles back around.
Thematically, it's important.
Book.
Yes.
It's very important, and so I feel like she had to maybe up the importance of the snitch in order for it to, I mean, I guess the reverse is true. In order to be worth your effort to go for the snitch, which is supposed to be like near impossible to catch, but always seems to happen a lot in the books, I'll admit. I mean, it's got to be worth a lot of points. Otherwise, like, why are you wasting a player going after this thing?
Well, and also, one time, or a couple times this did come into play, obviously Victor Crumb catches the snitch, but his team loses in the World Cup. Horrible error. And then Ginny in book 5, once Harry's suspended, she becomes the seeker, catches the snitch, but Gryffindor's so bad they still lost. And Harry was like, well,
stinks.
Good job, Ginny. You made it an almost win. No, Ginny did a very stupid play. She should not have caught the snitch if they were down by more than 120 points.
It's true because the game just ends.
Yeah.
sometimes they are so far away from the field. It's not like the snitch is staying within the field of play. Maybe she just didn't know. Maybe things went south. Like they got bad while she was gone. And she had no way of knowing that. And so she goes for the snitch because that's her job. And she expects her teammates to do their job, but they didn't. And so she catches the snitch and they lose. I mean, that stinks.
I'll give you that one, though. That's a good thought.
Wow.
So finally, before we wrap things up, I would like to pitch a couple ideas to you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think other sort of books, movies that we would love to see in the Potter universe. Told you the best idea I heard on Binge Mode Harry Potter was a procedural crime drama that takes place in the horror department called Law and Order.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I'd watch that.
Starring Kingsley Shacklebolt.
I'm in. Tell me some of the other ones, because I don't think I have.
Well, they threw out one that takes place for like the Marauders, so James Potter and Sirius when they were in Hogwarts.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Here are my two ideas. One of them, I can't decide either way. I'll let you decide. In one iteration, the protagonist is a witch girl who falls for a Muggle boy, and in the process gets beguiled by the outside Muggle world. It'll be sort of like an Amish Christian romance novel, only with wizards, because the wizards are basically Amish.
Excellent.
The other one takes place from the perspective of the Muggle boy, who's falling for this girl and slowly realizes throughout the course of the book that she's different. And then, once he discovers the wizarding world, he tries to escape so he doesn't get his memory erased.
Ooh, interesting.
And here's my other idea. It's going to be like the movie Moneyball, only with Quidditch. It's an innovative thinker.
Honestly, I'd read all of those. They need to get a Netflix series of Law and Order. That is gold. That is pure gold.
So I guess the moral of the story, JK, once again, we love you.
We do. I mean, think about how much we know about the universe you created. It's weird how much we know.
Yes.
It's weird.
The fact that you have created a made-up world that we enjoy spending time in so much that we can go back and forth about all the tiny little details, that just shows you are a genius. Harry Potter is wonderful. If you want to greenlight it, I will definitely get you a spec script for either the Moneyball one or my Forbidden Love story. Just so you know.
I like it.
All right. So, Danielle, we're about to wrap up this episode.
It's time.
Any closing thoughts you have about the wizarding world of Harry Potter?
No closing thoughts, other than I appreciate that you at least saw the merit in a few of my ideas. Thank you for that.
Thank you for, I think you agreed with me on everything if I remember it right.
Oh, yeah, that can be the story, if that's what you need. Yeah, I did.
All right, so on that note, we will call that an episode. Listeners, let us know what you think. If I was wrong on something, you can let me know. Danielle will probably read it and point it out to me later. But let's take things home, as always, with a St. Anselm quotation. For I do not seek to understand in order to believe, but I believe in order to understand. For I believe this, unless I believe, I will not understand. See you later, everyone.